Hey guys, welcome back to Dream Analytica. Today we're going to talk about the shadow and how he or she appears in our dreams. For most people that are beginning to look at their dreams seriously and take them seriously, particularly those people who have been repressed, psychologically speaking, their shadow might often appear quite literally as a dark entity, most of the time chasing them or hunting them down, or they're trying to hide from it in dreams. Another important aspect about the shadow, too, is that the way to identify your shadow, for the most part, is the shadow will usually manifest as the same gender as the dreamer. So if you're a man, your shadow will be a man. And if you're a woman, the shadow will be a woman. And again, what I said in the beginning about the shadow usually appearing as a dark entity, the relationship you have with your shadow will appear in your dreams. So if you take that interpretation, if you were going to interpret a person who is having dreams of a dark entity chasing them, or they're hiding from this dark entity, this shadowy figure in dreams, you could interpret that as the degree or the stage of their relationship with their shadow. So it is most likely the case that if I were to interpret that dream, that the relationship with their shadow is still repressed, dark, or unknown to the dreamer. And that's how you start to understand your dreams. It's really just trying to understand the dynamic and the relationship. So if something is chasing you, most likely it's a shadow. And what that dream is trying to entail is that your shadow is trying to come to consciousness. It's trying to get to know you, actually. It's chasing you down, probably because the dreamer has been pushing that part of themselves for a very long time and neglecting it. And so it's sort of fed up and it wants to come at you. I like to analogize it as the entity is just trying to return your wallet, because it really just wants to become your friend, ultimately, the shadowy parts of us. The shadowy parts of ourselves in conscious reality is usually the repressed or denied aspects of our psyche, of our psychological traits, the stuff that we don't like to present to the world, the stuff that we, for the most part, unconscious of. The shadow in Jungian psychology sits behind the ego. So it's the stuff that is quite literally behind us that we are not aware of. And these shadow tendencies tend to come out when we are not in not so much control. Like if we're very really sick, if we have the flu, or if we're drunk. Drunk states are usually when the shadow comes out. The other parts of us, the other personality comes outside and manifests. So that's a good way to identify the shadow. So the way it appears in dreams, again, is the dynamic and the dynamic of the relationship between you and your shadow. And one other really good way to determine what your shadow looks like, and it also appears in dreams this way, is who are your friends? So if you are a man and you have another male friend and he appears in your dreams, then you could say that he appeared as your shadow, that your friend is actually your shadow. So if you're an introvert and you befriend an extrovert, and this extrovert appears in your dreams, that's exactly it. You have an extroverted side, but it's been repressed. It's your shadow quality, and you could quite literally say that your friend is your shadow. And again, if in the dream the dynamic is a healthy one, if your friend is supporting you in the dream, if your friend is being helpful, being kind, being generous towards you, that is a healthy relationship between you, yourself, your ego, and your shadow qualities. That's also a really telling way, a psychological way of saying that there is a reason that you guys are friends in the first place. It's because you have some traits that he possesses, and therefore you actually unconsciously sought out those traits in another person, and that other person became your friend. Equally, you might be your friend's shadow as well. And the same applies for women. So if you have a friend that's another woman, and she's sort of like, you're both similar but different in many ways, she might have qualities that pertain to your shadow. And that's a really good way of identifying it. So you could say that your best friend in your dreams, if it's a positive dream, is your positive shadow. And just like the ego and the shadow itself has positive and negative qualities. So the shadow is not altogether a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. The shadow has just as much positive qualities. Like you couldn't say that a person who is extroverted is bad if you're an introvert. No, it has nothing to do with bad or good. It's just the qualities we have either consciously or unconsciously chosen to repress within ourselves. So going into more of typology too, you could say like if you're a thinking type, you would have a more feeling shadow, or if you're a sensation type, you might have a more of an intuitive shadow. So it's just a counterbalance for our psychology is really has a lot to do with balancing, a balancing act going on. It's a dreams are like a self-regulating mechanism for our psychology. It balances things out. So again, let's go back to identifying the shadow in dreams. So if you are being chased, if you are having really bad dreams about being chased by a dark figure, that tells you everything you need to know about yourself, that there are these hidden aspects of yourself that you are neglecting, that you are pushing down during waking hours. So what does that mean? It really means that, like, let's say during waking hours you repress an urge, like you wanted to say something but you didn't because you thought you would sound stupid. You're going to have a dream that night that will show you exactly that you pushed this part of yourself down because you thought it would be stupid, because everyone would probably think you're an idiot, even though that might not even be the case. But you did that to yourself. So you pushed this other personality down within you. And so in the dream, you might have a dream about this shadowy figure trying to get at you, trying to chase you, trying to say like, "Hey, why are you pushing me down? Like, it's not fair. Like, I deserve to come out. I deserve just as much attention and realization as much as the ego does." So ultimately, what you would want to do, if the shadow is not too big, there are some cases where the shadow is just so big and so dangerous, it might not be a good idea to engage with it immediately. Like you might have to go through some steps, which is what analytical psychology aims to do, is try to approach it in a safe manner. But if the shadow's not so big, you could easily just turn around and say, "What do you want from me?" And the shadow stops chasing you. That other parts of your personality stops chasing you. And oftentimes, if you do this in a imaginative sense through active imagination, like you revisit your dream. So you had a dream about some shadowy figure chasing you and you reimagine it and you turn around in the dream, you ask what the shadow wants, and oftentimes it'll just tell you. It'll appear as something like returning your wallet and saying like, you don't need to run from me." In other words, it's a metaphor for saying you don't need to repress me anymore. Like you you can be yourself with both your acceptable and unacceptable qualities, and you don't need to push me down anymore because I can be just as helpful as your best friend is in real life. Like I can back you up in times of real need, or in dire situations, or in social settings where you might feel overwhelmed. Your shadow can come out and help you. And that's how powerful the dreams are. It's really telling you what the dynamic is so that you can approach it properly and live fully and wholly. So try to have a dream tonight. Not try to have a dream tonight, but when you have a dream tonight, try to identify these characters within yourself. And if you see, for the most part, again, for the most part, the gender of the figure in your dream is the same gender as you are, then you could say, okay, that's my shadow. You could say, okay, what qualities does this character have? Is it my best friend? Is it somebody I met that I didn't like? Oftentimes we see people we don't like in our dreams, and that's usually an indication that's the shadow. So what happens in psychology is those repressed contents, if we're unconscious of them, we will project. We will unconsciously project those qualities out. Meaning, if you see somebody with those qualities that you have rejected within yourself, you will find them outside. You will project them, you will throw them out there. So you might see this character outside in reality, and for no reason at all that you could find, for no discernible reason, you just hate them. Maybe it's some of their attributes or their mannerisms, when in fact, actually, you don't know this person at all. It could be a saint, it could be a really kind person. She could be like working at a nonprofit or something like that. You have projected your qualities onto her, and that which you hate outside is actually that which you hate within yourself. So once you understand those parts of yourself, it's a real moment of like, I can relax a little bit because I've stigmatized those people outside, and it's caused me a lot of stress, and it's really, it takes a lot of energy to project outward, because you're throwing something from within yourself out there, so you're losing a part of yourself. When you throw a projectile, you're throwing something out. It's not empty. You're throwing something out, and it comes from within yourself. So whenever you project, you're throwing away a part of yourself, and that's not healthy, and that's going to cause further repression, because you're going to reject those parts of yourself and further push your shadow down. And the shadow does not like to be ignored, and it does not like to be neglected. And what happens is, when people repress and repress, the shadow gets bigger, darker, and darker, until one day, in whatever circumstance, it's going to come out, take over. Yeah, it can cause a lot of harm and a lot of problems if you are not conscious of it. So building a healthy relationship with your shadow is of vital importance. It's so important because shadow projection is responsible for so many problems in society, for so many, for war even. You can have countries projecting the shadow onto each other. This is called collective shadow projection. That's very dangerous. It's very dangerous because you get caught in the collective shadow projection, and you're not even conscious of it. You're completely blind. It's like a blanket has been pulled over your head, and you're just following the crowd. Whatever they hate, I hate too. You lose your individuality. So you see how you start with just your own dreams, and you're able to separate from this collective illness of shadow projection and save yourself from complete destruction. Your dreams are also going to be better. So if you have bad dreams and it's mostly related to your shadow being chased, being hunted, if you become conscious of, you can build a healthy relationship, and your shadow will transform. The very act of observation changes the very nature of your psychic content. It's incredible stuff, and you just feel much better. It's a much better feeling than hating and projecting your shadow outward. And ultimately, it's just you hating yourself. So when you get to know your shadow, you get to befriend it. Life just becomes so much more manageable, better, more peaceful, more calm. You're more at ease with yourself because you're not ashamed of yourself anymore. So if you need help, like if you need help identifying your shadow, don't hesitate to type it in the comments. Reach out to me if you like. I'll post the link to my website and all that, and we can take a look at your shadow and help you build a better relationship if that's something you're struggling with, sure. But otherwise, for people who have a good relationship with their shadow, who see their best friend, possibly even their siblings as their shadow, that is supportive, then you're on the right track. That's a really good indication that you are in a healthy dynamic with the qualities that ultimately people who are not in a healthy dynamic would repress. So well done if you do have healthy dreams about your shadow. So that's all I'll talk about for today, and I'll continue to post more about how we are integrating all these characters of our psyche through the foundation of dreams. So thank you so much for watching.